Our next guest on District Digest, John Merrow, a radio and TV broadcast veteran. He's the education correspondent on PBS NewsHour, the president of Learning Matters, and the author of the book, The Influence of Teachers, Reflections on Teaching and Leadership. And John, welcome to the program and welcome to Collier County.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Now, you came to Collier County, to Naples. You were in town for the Getting Ahead Idea Exchange put on by the Education Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
There was a panel of a lot of other nationally renowned thought leaders on education, and you were one of those. And there was a lot of great discussion about education today in Collier County and the world in general.
Absolutely. It was a terrific event. I mean, the foundation does so much to help improve public education, to get people talking about it. And one of the things you and I both know is that you can't assume that just the teachers or even just the parents can do it. Most households in the country and in Collier County do not have children in school. And yeah, so you have to reach beyond the 20 or 25% who do have the kids to get to that other 75 or 80%, and the foundation does a great job of doing that. Last night was an incredible turnout. About 500 people came to listen to us, but also to pose their own questions. And what was terrific is that conversation continued after we finished our little, it went on for another hour or so with people and groups, and I suspect it'll keep on going.
It will. Well, that's a discussion that everybody has a stake in.
Yeah.
I mean, education and what goes on, like you said, whether you have a child in school, whether you have a child, period, it matters to all of us, and it affects all of our lives.
Yeah, and one of the things that's interesting about that is, you know, this Occupy Wall Street, they talk about the 99% and the 1%. There's another 99% and 1%. 1% of our population, public school teachers. 1 out of every 100 Americans is a public school teacher. And a lot of times the rest of us, the 99%, just kind of assume the teachers will do everything, or we blame the teachers. Truth is, we have to, those of us in the 99% have to get involved, and that's why the Education Foundation is such an incredible organization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and like you had said last night, the job of schools, that's a huge job.
And the job of schools is not
what people think it is.
It is not teaching children. Mm-hmm. The job of schools is working with parents, community to grow adults, which is why the community has to say, well, what kind of adults do we want all our children, not just my kids or your kids? What kind of adults do we want them to be? And if you have that conversation, then you think a little bit differently about schools. I mean, this is a very different world we live in, that our children are growing up in. You have an 8-year-old?
I have an 8-year-old, and I have an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old.
Those 3 kids are digital natives, but they're not digital citizens necessarily. That's our job as adults, to see if citizenship is different. Being a native doesn't imply any kind of being a citizen. So what the technology allows is kids to create knowledge. See, right now, computers have all the answers. They don't have the questions. So we have to help our kids formulate questions to sort through that cloud, that flood of information that surrounds them, to turn that information into knowledge, maybe even into wisdom if we're lucky. But we want them to separate the wheat from the chaff, and of course we want them to choose the wheat, which means values are involved. So it's a very, schools here and everywhere in the country are these answer factories. That's not appropriate. That's not adequate for today. We need to keep the buildings, but we should not respect the walls. I mean, schools in Collier County can be connected, and kids can be creating knowledge, not just pouring into their heads the stuff that we think they need to know. I mean, it's a different world, and you know, it's your job as school people to adapt, to change, but you can't do it without organizations like the foundation to bring in the rest of the community.
Like you said, like harnessing that technology.
Yeah.
Bringing it all together.
And not just using it to do what we think, using it differently, so that the kids have to question this information. Just because it's out there, just because it's in print, it doesn't make it true. So we need kids who can think critically and ask good questions. How do I know this? How do I know that I know this? Testing it. That's different from just regurgitating what certainly the way I went to school. You just assume you regurgitate. Yes, the War of 1812, these were the key battles, kind of thing. No, it's a very different world, and almost every other institution has changed dramatically. This business, television, certainly has changed dramatically. The dry cleaner has changed. Schools have not changed enough. Yeah.
Right. When you talk about students having to find their passion,
Yes.
and that's so very important.
And that was one of the other panelists. Greg put that out there first, and Ron and I endorsed it eagerly, said that we can't decide what our children are passionate about. You have 3 children. They are different kids. They're going to learn differently. They're going to care about different things. So what we need, to reduce it to a bumper sticker, is we need schools and teachers who ask of each child, not how intelligent are you, but how are you intelligent? How are you intelligent? Because if you do that, then you're figuring out what that kid is interested in and strong. Then you work with a health model, and you build on that. You don't say, "Oh, these things are wrong with you. You're not intelligent enough," and that's the major change. It seems to me. If you change that mindset, how are you intelligent? A lot will follow from that.
Well, John, final question. Before the Getting Ahead Idea Exchange, you got to go around and visit some of our schools.
We got to do 2 schools.
What were your thoughts?
An elementary school, a middle school, full of energy. We met some kids. We spent time with 2 dynamic principals, and my sense is that these folks seem to get it. That they're working under difficult conditions because the state is saying we've got to test, and we're going to hold you accountable. A lot of times that works against deep learning. But I was very impressed.
Wonderful. Thanks again for being with us.
Thank you very much.